It was a sweltering Tuesday afternoon in Malibu when Martha Wilson found herself stranded on the side of Pacific Coast Highway. At 78 years old, Martha was no stranger to life's challenges, but today's predicament felt particularly overwhelming. Her aging Toyota Camry had blown a tire just as she was returning from her weekly volunteer shift at the local animal shelter, and the AAA service she'd called informed her of a 2-hour wait time due to unusually high call volume. 2 hours? Martha had exclaimed into her phone, dabbing at the perspiration forming on her forehead. I have medication I need to take with food in less than an hour. I'm very sorry, ma'am, the polite but unhelpful voice had replied. That's the best we can do today. Martha sighed as she ended the call, glancing at the traffic whizzing by. Cars passed without slowing, sleek luxury vehicles driven by people too busy with their important lives to notice an elderly woman in distress. The California sun beat down mercilessly, and Martha opened her car door to sit sideways in the driver's seat, feet on the gravel shoulder, trying to catch whatever breeze might come her way. She was contemplating calling her son in San Diego, though he lived 3 hours away and would certainly worry himself sick, when a sleek Tesla Model S silently pulled over about 20 feet ahead of her car. Martha watched curiously as the driver's door opened and a man stepped out. He was wearing faded jeans, a simple gray t-shirt, and a blue baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Dark sunglasses obscured much of his face, but Martha could see he had a neatly trimmed beard. Something about him seemed vaguely familiar, but she couldn't quite place it. Having some trouble, the man called as he approached, his voice gentle and concerned. Martha straightened in her seat. Oh, yes. Flat tire. AAA says they'll be 2 hours, and I'm afraid I'm not equipped to handle this myself these days. She gestured to her arthritic hands with a self-deprecating smile. The man nodded understandingly. Mind if I take a look? I might be able to help. That's very kind of you, Martha replied, slightly surprised. In her experience, not many people stop to help strangers anymore, especially in this affluent area where everyone seemed perpetually in a hurry. Are you some kind of service engineer? You seem very courteous. The man chuckled softly as he knelt to examine the flat tire. No, ma'am. Just someone who knows his way around a car. He glanced up at her with a warm smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Do you have a spare tire and jack in the trunk? I believe so, Martha answered. The car belonged to my late husband, and he was always very thorough about maintenance. May I? The man gestured toward the trunk. Of course, dear, Martha said, pressing the trunk release button inside the car. The man efficiently retrieved the spare tire, jack, and lug wrench from the trunk. Martha watched with admiration as he worked, noting his practiced movements and the care he took to place the lug nuts in the hubcap so they wouldn't roll away. You seem very comfortable doing this, Martha observed. Most young people these days wouldn't know the first thing about changing a tire. The man smiled as he positioned the jack under the car. My dad taught me when I was 16. Said it was something everyone should know how to do. A wise man, your father, Martha nodded approvingly. He is, the man agreed, a note of fondness in his voice as he began jacking up the car. Martha noticed a few cars slowing down as they passed, the occupants peering curiously at the man changing her tire. One car even honked briefly, and the man ducked his head slightly lower, seeming almost embarrassed by the attention. Are you from around here? Martha asked, attempting to make conversation. I live nearby, he replied, loosening the lug nuts with practiced ease. How about you? Oh, I've been in the same little house in Santa Monica for 43 years, Martha said proudly. My husband and I bought it when it was just a modest neighborhood. Now I'm surrounded by tech executives and movie people who've built mansions. They keep offering to buy my place, but I tell them I'm not going anywhere. The man laughed appreciatively as he removed the flat tire. Good for you. Too many people these days are willing to give up what matters for a quick dollar. As he worked, Martha noticed a black SUV slow down across the street. The window rolled down, and she glimpsed someone pointing a camera in their direction before the man changing her tire turned his back to the road. "I think someone's taking pictures," Martha remarked, perplexed. "How strange." The man shrugged, seeming unconcerned. "People do all sorts of things these days." They chatted amicably as he finished the job. Martha told him about her volunteer work at the animal shelter, her 3 grandchildren in college, and how she'd recently taken up watercolor painting. The man listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions while swiftly completing the tire change. "My granddaughter keeps telling me I should be on something called TikTok with my paintings," Martha confided with a laugh. "Can you imagine? An old lady like me. You'd probably go viral," the man replied with a grin as he lowered the car and began tightening the lug nuts on the spare tire. "I've seen stranger things happen." "And what do you do, dear?" Martha inquired politely. There was a brief pause before he answered. "I work in entertainment." "Oh, how interesting!" Martha exclaimed. "My husband and I loved movies. We used to go every Saturday night, without fail." "Do you work on movies?" "Something like that," he replied vaguely, gathering the tools to return them to the trunk. "Well, whatever you do, you're very good at changing tires," Martha said warmly. "I can't thank you enough for stopping. Not many would, you know." The man closed the trunk and wiped his hands on a handkerchief he pulled from his pocket. "It's no trouble at all, ma'am. The spare should get you home safely, but you'll want to get a proper tire soon. That's just a temporary fix. I'll call my nephew tomorrow. He helps me with car things," Martha assured him. "Would you let me give you something for your trouble? Perhaps for a nice dinner?" The man shook his head firmly. "Absolutely not necessary. Just happy to help." Martha noted that he seemed genuinely uncomfortable with the suggestion of payment, which raised him even further in her estimation. "At least tell me your name, so I can tell my family about the kind young man who rescued me today," she persisted. The man hesitated momentarily. "Leo," he said simply. "Well, Leo, you've restored my faith in humanity today," Martha declared, extending her hand. "I'm Martha Wilson." "Pleasure to meet you, Martha," Leo replied, shaking her hand gently. "Drive safely, and make sure to get that proper tire soon." With a final smile and a wave, he returned to his Tesla and drove away. Martha watched the sleek vehicle disappear around a bend in the road, feeling immensely grateful for the encounter. The following evening, Martha was enjoying a cup of tea and watching the local news when her telephone rang. It was her daughter, Caroline. "Mom, you're not going to believe this," Caroline began without preamble. "Sophia just sent me a link. You're trending online." "I'm what?" Martha asked, bewildered. "There's a picture of you with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's all over social media and entertainment news. Apparently, he stopped to help you with a flat tire yesterday? Why didn't you say anything?" Martha nearly dropped her teacup. "Leonardo DiCaprio? The movie star?" "Yes, Mom. The Oscar winner. Titanic? The Revenant? Wolf of Wall Street?" Martha sat in stunned silence for a moment as realization dawned. "He said his name was Leo. I thought he looked familiar, but with the hat and sunglasses." "Oh my goodness, Caroline, I asked if he was a service engineer." Caroline's laughter pealed through the phone. "Only you, Mom. Only you would not recognize one of the most famous actors in the world." "He was so normal, so down-to-earth," Martha marveled. "He just helped me and chatted like any nice young man would." That's what everyone online is saying. TMZ has the headline, "DiCaprio's Roadside Rescue, Hollywood Star Changes Elderly Fan's Tire." "But I wasn't a fan, I didn't even recognize him," Martha protested. "That's what makes the story even better, Mom. Look, I'm sending you a link right now. A moment later, Martha's phone pinged with a text message. She put Caroline on speaker as she tapped the link, which opened to show a series of photographs of Leo changing her tire. There was no mistaking him now that she knew who to look for. "Oh my," Martha murmured. "He really is Leonardo DiCaprio." The article quoted an anonymous source close to the actor, saying that DiCaprio had been driving home when he spotted an elderly woman in distress and didn't hesitate to stop and help, spending nearly half an hour changing her tire and making sure she was okay before continuing on his way. As she scrolled through the article, Martha was relieved to see that she wasn't identified by name, only described as an elderly local resident. "They're trying to find you for interviews, Mom," Caroline continued excitedly. "Several news outlets want to talk to the woman who didn't recognize Leo DiCaprio." "Goodness," Martha said faintly. "I don't think I want all that attention." "Are you kidding? This is your chance to be famous." Caroline laughed. "I don't need to be famous, dear," Martha replied firmly. "And I certainly don't want to embarrass that nice young man by giving interviews about how he helped me." The next morning, Martha's resolve was tested when a local reporter knocked on her door, having somehow tracked her down. The young woman was eager and persistent, holding out a microphone and asking Martha to comment on her celebrity encounter. After politely declining several times, Martha finally said, "If you really want a statement from me, here it is. The most impressive things aren't roles in movies, but actions in real life." That young man showed genuine kindness to a stranger, with no expectation of recognition or reward. That says more about his character than any performance could. The reporter seemed somewhat disappointed by this brief comment but included it in her piece anyway. By that afternoon, Martha's words had spread across various entertainment news outlets and social media platforms, often paired with the photos of DiCaprio diligently changing her tire. 3 days later, Martha returned home from her volunteer shift to find a beautiful arrangement of flowers on her porch with a simple note, "Thank you for your kind words. It was a pleasure meeting you, Leo." Alongside the flowers was a small, flat package. Martha opened it to discover a gift certificate to a high-end tire shop in Santa Monica, with all 4 tires on her Toyota already paid for. Martha smiled, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gesture. She placed the flowers in a vase and called her nephew to arrange a time to use the gift certificate. As the media frenzy around the incident gradually died down, Martha found herself reflecting on the encounter whenever she saw Leonardo DiCaprio's face on a movie poster or television program. She never did give any interviews or seek any attention for the incident, despite numerous requests. 6 months later, Martha was surprised to receive an invitation to a charity gala benefiting ocean conservation. A handwritten note accompanied the formal invitation, "Would love to see you there. Your friend, Leo." Martha decided to attend, wearing her best dress and feeling somewhat out of place among the Hollywood elite. She was standing near the refreshment table, observing the glamorous crowd, when a familiar voice spoke beside her. "Hello, Martha. I'm glad you could make it." She turned to find Leonardo DiCaprio smiling at her, dressed impeccably in a tuxedo but with the same kind eyes she remembered from their roadside encounter. "Leo," she greeted him warmly. "Thank you for inviting me. It's a wonderful event for a good cause." "I wanted to introduce you to someone," he said, gesturing to an elegant woman who approached them. "This is my mother, Ermeline." "It's a pleasure to meet you," Ermeline said, taking Martha's hands in hers. "Leo told me about your encounter. I just wanted to tell you that I raised him to always stop and help when he sees someone in need." "You did a wonderful job," Martha replied sincerely. "You should be very proud." "I am," Ermeline smiled. "And thank you for not making a big fuss about it in the media. Leo values his privacy, and your discretion meant a lot to him." "Of course," Martha nodded. "Fame shouldn't change basic human decency, either giving it or receiving it." Throughout the evening, Martha observed Leo moving through the crowd, genuinely passionate about the environmental causes he championed. He introduced her to several other guests without ever mentioning how they had met, simply referring to her as, "my friend Martha." As the event concluded, Leo escorted Martha to her car, driven by her nephew, who was starstruck despite Martha's instructions to act normal. "Thank you again for coming tonight," Leo said. "It means a lot." "Thank you for inviting me," Martha replied. "And for changing my tire that day. You know, I've seen several of your movies since then." "Oh?" Leo raised an eyebrow, looking amused. "And what did you think?" "You're very talented," Martha acknowledged with a smile. "But I still think your best performance was the one I saw first, just being a kind human being on the side of the road." Leo laughed genuinely, his eyes crinkling at the corners just as they had the day they met. "That wasn't a performance, Martha." "I know," she said softly. "That's what made it so special." They exchanged a warm handshake, and as Martha's car pulled away, she reflected on how a simple flat tire had led to such an unexpected friendship. In a world obsessed with celebrity and status, it was refreshing to discover that sometimes, people, even famous ones, could still connect on a purely human level. In the years that followed, Martha received a Christmas card from Leo annually, and occasionally flowers would arrive on her birthday. She never spoke publicly about their continuing acquaintance, honoring the privacy that she knew he valued. When Martha celebrated her 80th birthday with a small party at the animal shelter where she volunteered, there was an anonymous donation made in her honor, enough to renovate the entire facility and establish a fund for animals needing special medical care. The card simply read, "To someone who values actions above applause, your friend, L." Martha smiled knowingly when she read it, reminded once again that the measure of a person isn't found in their fame or fortune, but in the simple, human kindness they show when no one is watching, or when they think no one knows who they are. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes. Also don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.